A few weeks ago, I received an email that really felt like a punch to the gut.
Oh, what happened?
The subject line was just cold, impersonal. Your account has been suspended.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason given was, well, suspicion of publishing auto-generated articles.
I think I see where this is going.
Yeah. For a moment, I was just completely baffled. You know, the ideas were mine, the voice was mine, the stories I'd written came directly from my own thoughts, my experiences. I was the author.
Right.
But what the platform's algorithm couldn't see, of course, was the process behind the words.
The human element.
Exactly. It couldn't see me speaking my thoughts out loud because, well, the jumble of letters on a keyboard has always been a frustrating barrier for me with dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't see me taking that raw spoken transcript and using an AI assistant as a kind of copilot.
To help translate it.
Yeah, prompting it to fix the spelling, structure the grammar, organize my, fragmented ideas into something coherent for others to read.
So it was assistive technology purely.
Purely. But all the system saw was the polished final product, and it flagged it as not human. And in that instant, the very tool that had finally empowered me, the thing that let me overcome this lifelong struggle, suddenly became the very thing that got me accused of not being a writer at all.
That experience, that immediate clash between the tech helping you and then being suspected because of it.
Yeah.
That really encapsulates the core question we're diving into today, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
When does AI stop being, helpful assistive technology and start challenging our whole definition of human authorship?
Exactly. And how do we make sure these tools stay as aids for inclusion, not, agents of exclusion?
That's the tightrope.
That dilemma, yeah. The fear of being excluded by the very technology that's supposed to help include you. That's really the heartbeat of this deep dive.
And the materials we've both looked at give us a really fascinating window into how this generative AI is fundamentally reshaping accessibility.
Especially for neurodivergent individuals, yeah. In education, in the workplace, it's everywhere now.
So our mission today is to really drill down into the nuance here. We're going to unpack the specific, sometimes surprising mechanics of using AI as this cognitive copilot.
Right, how it actually works for people.
Then we need to look at the policy boundaries, which are critical, but often, let's be honest, pretty ambiguous, defining what actually counts as human authorship these days.
That's a huge gray area.
It is. And we absolutely have to examine the urgent need for equitable access, especially in, say, mixed ability classrooms. How do we make this fair?
A critical question for education.
And finally, we'll look ahead a bit at the really exciting future of personalized digital design that seems to be shifting the whole paradigm from just, ticking boxes for legal compliance.
To genuine adaptive care, actually designing for the person.
Exactly, designing for care.
Okay, so let's unpack this idea of the AI copilot first, because understanding how it works, the mechanism, is really key to seeing its value, both therapeutically and, professionally.
Absolutely. For a neurotypical writer, the process of getting thoughts onto the page, thinking the concept, spelling the words, building the sentence, typing it out, it's mostly automatic.
Yeah, the cognitive load feels manageable for most.
Precisely. But for someone dealing with specific learning difficulties, dyslexia, like you mentioned, or dysgraphia, ADHD, that same act involves a massive cognitive bottleneck. It's like a traffic jam in the brain.
That's a good way to put it.
Your brain is trying to manage high-level stuff, like structuring an argument, while simultaneously wrestling with low-level tasks, like remembering how to spell a tricky word or getting the grammar just right.
It creates so much friction.
Right.
And frustration.
Exactly. And often the written output just doesn't reflect the person's actual intelligence or insight because so much energy is lost in that translation process.
So the magic, if you want to call it that, of the AI copilot is that it lets the writer keep their focus just on the creative thought, the meaning, the intent.
All that mental energy that was being burned just managing spelling and syntax gets completely offloaded onto the machine.
Which sounds incredibly freeing. How does it actually work in practice?
Yeah.
You mentioned starting with voice.
Yeah, the workflow mechanics can be surprisingly low-tech at the beginning. It often revolves around voice capture.
So just talking it out.
Right. You speak your thoughts freely without that internal editor jumping in every 2 seconds to flag spelling mistakes or awkward phrasing that always happens when you're typing.
That lowers the working memory load right there.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
You're separating the idea generation from the mechanical formatting.
It's like you're telling the machine, okay, here's the raw clay of my idea.
Yeah.
You handle the firing and the glazing.
That's a wonderful analogy.
Okay.
Perfect. So that raw thought, which if you just transcribed it directly, might look like a mess, frankly.
Yeah, full of errors, starts and stops.
Right. That gets transcribed. And then the AI Copilot steps in. It acts like a really powerful assistant you can delegate tasks to. The power is all in the prompt.
Okay, so give us some examples of those prompts. How specific can they get?
Oh, very specific. A writer might start with, say, a raw voice transcript that's maybe 1,200 words long, structurally all over the place.
Right.
The instructions they give the AI go way beyond simple grammar correction. They might say something like, please take this raw transcript and tidy it into a structured 600-word article. Give it an engaging intro, logical paragraph breaks, and a concluding thought suitable for, I don't know, an internal company memo.
Wow. Okay, so it's handling the structure and length constraints too.
Absolutely. Or you could get even more sophisticated. Maybe something like, turn this raw transcript into a clear, compelling essay with proper academic transitions. Fix all grammar and spelling issues, elevate the tone so it's ready to submit to a specialized magazine, and maybe even generate 5 potential titles.
So the AI isn't coming up with the core idea.
No, absolutely not. That's the key distinction. The human provides the substance, the original thought. The AI is just executing the mechanical, often laborious, and definitely anxiety-inducing work of formatting and making sure it meets linguistic norms.
The mental burden of spelling, punctuation, fine grammar shifted entirely to the machine.
Right. Which allows the writer, after their final review and maybe some tweaks, to confidently produce work that actually reflects their intellectual capacity and what they originally intended to say.
It sounds like a workflow really customized for building confidence. Let's talk about the specific tools people are actually using. It's probably not just one piece of software, is it?
No, rarely. It's usually an integrated system, kind of a personalized toolkit. People stack capabilities.
Oh, okay.
So you might have ChatGPT acting as the sort of macro assistant.
Right, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. It's great conversationally. If you have a paragraph and think, this tone is a bit off, you can ask and make this sound less aggressive, or could you reorganize the third paragraph to really emphasize the economic argument? It's good for that large-scale restructuring and developing ideas.
Okay, so ChatGPT for the heavy lifting on structure and tone. Then you move to polish.
Then you often move to the polish layer. Grammarly, especially with its AI writer features, seems indispensable for many.
I use Grammarly all the time.
Right, it zeroes in on that immediate anxiety. The spelling, the clarity, the grammar correctness in the draft you already have. We hear about writers with dyslexia running their, say, ChatGPT output through Grammarly for an extra layer of safety.
Like a final human-level proofread, but by AI?
Sort of, yeah. It's about building multi-layered confidence in the output.
Makes sense. And for people doing more creative writing, like fiction.
For fiction and storytelling, Sudowrite gets mentioned a lot. It's specialized.
How so?
It helps with things like narrative flow, maybe expanding a scene based on a core idea you provide, or helping maintain consistency in descriptions across a longer piece. The goal seems to be making the creative work very tidy, as one source put it, without killing the imagination.
Keeping the style consistent, maybe.
That too. And finally, you have tools focused purely on, let's say, lexical refinement, like WordTune.
WordTune, what's its niche?
WordTune is excellent for rephrasing and suggesting alternate wording. If you know what you want to say, but the sentence just feels clumsy or repetitive.
Yeah, you get stuck on a phrase.
Exactly. WordTune offers options to make sentences flow more naturally, more precisely. It helps find that sophisticated word or structure your brain might struggle to pull up under pressure.
So, putting it all together, you have this comprehensive toolkit.
Right. And it fundamentally shifts the writing process. It takes it from being this high-anxiety, high-friction task to something much smoother, a low-friction output activity.
Okay, so we've seen how empowering this AI Copilot can be, but now we have to transition back to that fear you mentioned right at the start, being flagged as not human.
Yeah, the dark side of polish.
Exactly. As powerful as this assistance is, policymakers, especially in publishing, media, academia, they're really struggling to draw the line. Where does acceptable assistance end and unacceptable generation begin? This is the policy tightrope we talked about. If the final piece looks too perfect, the platform assumes a bot wrote it. So what are the actual rules? How do platforms like, say, Medium or others define compliance versus generation?
This is really the heart of the policy debate, and the rules generally center on who owns the intellectual core, the main ideas.
Okay.
Major platforms typically don't prohibit using AI tools for assistance. So if you use AI for outlining, checking grammar, improving clarity, refining your tone, that's usually considered compliant.
It's like a very sophisticated spell checker or style guide.
Essentially, yes. The violation happens when the input-to-output ratio gets really skewed.
Meaning that AI did most of the work.
Precisely. Violation occurs when the AI produces most of the piece with very little human editing or substantive input. That's what they define as AI-generated writing.
Okay, but practically, this is where it gets murky, isn't it?
Very murky.
If I give the AI, say, 10 really detailed bullet points based on an interview I did, and the AI Copilot turns those into a flawless 1,500-word article, how does a platform algorithm decide if that was little human editing? Where's the threshold?
And that ambiguity is the tightrope. The policy technically relies on that fundamental distinction. Did the human own the ideas and the narrative structure, or did the AI basically invent the core concept from a very minimal prompt?
Right.
As long as the human is the source of the fundamental thought, and the AI is just used to polish and format those existing intentional thoughts, the writer should retain primary authorship.
But proving that intention to an algorithm, that's the challenge.
That is the massive enforcement challenge, which forces the writer into being hyper-aware of disclosure.
Oh, yes, the disclosure requirements. Let's talk about this, because transparency seems key, especially if money's involved.
Definitely. Policies have tightened up a lot, particularly for content behind a paywall.
Makes sense.
Fully AI-generated content is often restricted or even banned entirely from monetized distribution on many platforms. If you use AI assistance, transparency is usually mandatory if you want your work to get full distribution.
So you have to say you used it.
Generally, yes. Disclosed AI usage, maybe just a simple line at the bottom like, this post was edited with AI assistance for clarity and accessibility, that usually makes it eligible for general distribution.
And if you don't disclose it, even if it was just assistive.
Undisclosed AI usage, even if it was just helping you polish, might get your content limited just to your immediate network, or potentially removed entirely if the algorithm flags it as suspicious.
So better safe than sorry with disclosure.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The underlying idea is that the reader deserves to know the level of technological intervention involved.
Yeah.
The policy, while definitely frustrating when it leads to false positives like yours, is ultimately trying to preserve some integrity in the content economy and protect, human creators from being ground out by mass-produced stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. And this whole policy shift has huge ripple effects in the professional workplace too, right? It goes way beyond just publishing articles online.
Oh, massive implications. We're seeing AI tools like Microsoft's Copilot really transforming daily written communication, and it's especially impactful for neurodivergent employees.
How so? Is there data on that?
Yeah, the workplace impact data is pretty staggering. Some reports highlight something like an 80% impact on written communication efficiency. But it's not just about writing faster.
It's about the anxiety reduction.
Exactly. It's about reducing that intense anxiety tied to everyday professional tasks, drafting complex emails, summarizing long meeting notes, or just worrying constantly about being misunderstood because of a grammatical slip.
That anxiety is such a huge, often invisible barrier. If you have dysgraphia, like we mentioned, every single email can feel like a multi-step battle against self-doubt.
Totally. The AI acts as this reliable filter and buffer. One employee was quoted saying Copilot made a profound difference, especially for complex or quick communication. They said they could freely focus on the people I'm connecting with without the anxiety associated with potentially missing important information.
So they can actually listen better in meetings, engage more genuinely.
Right, because the machine is handling the immediate sort of administrative burden of capturing information accurately and helping formulate the response.
And this extends beyond just writing into broader workplace accessibility too, which I find really powerful.
Absolutely. Look at the impact on managing calls or meetings. For employees with hearing loss, for instance, the ability of AI tools to provide real-time transcription and then accurate summaries of virtual calls. It's described as invaluable.
I can only imagine.
It helps them be highly effective participants without that constant worry of missing key details or the social awkwardness of having to constantly ask people to repeat themselves.
It's a perfect example of technology driving real inclusion.
It really levels the playing field. It ensures that valuable talent isn't held back simply because the standard processes favor, say, perfect auditory processing or flawless written output on the first try.
Yeah.
The general feeling seems to be that employees who might have been struggling before may start shining now just because the AI removes those structural barriers.
So the goal becomes genuine organizational inclusion.
using AI to handle the transactional bits of work so human intelligence can focus on the strategic, the creative, the interpersonal. Okay, so moving from the professional world, where the main focus is often productivity, let's shift to the academic world. Here, the focus changes dramatically towards equity, towards enabling students to show what they actually know.
Yeah, the stakes feel profoundly high when you're talking about a student's ability to demonstrate their learning and build their confidence.
Which brings us to that story of Leo from the UK high school. It's such a perfect illustration of how knowledge can get trapped by a disability.
Remind us about Leo.
Leo was described as a brilliant history student in discussions. He could articulate complex ideas, political motives, economic forces, long-term impacts with incredible clarity when he spoke.
But written work was different.
Totally different. When it came time to write his final paper, his dyslexia meant his work was apparently a mess of reversed letters and tangled sentences.
Oh, no.
So his grades suffered badly, not reflecting his understanding at all. And naturally, his confidence took a huge hit. His written output just didn't match his intellectual input.
That's heartbreaking, and that's where AI came in.
Yes. His teacher, a Mrs. Evans, introduced an AI-powered writing assistant. And she framed it perfectly, articulating the kind of philosophical shift education needs here.
What did she say?
She said, it's not a calculator that gives you the answer. It's a scaffold that helps you build your own argument.
Oh, that's a fantastic analogy, a scaffold.
Isn't it? It's crucial for addressing academic integrity concerns. A calculator does the calculation for you. A scaffold lets you reach a height you couldn't get to alone, but you are still doing the building work.
Right, you're still constructing the argument, placing the bricks.
Exactly. So for students like Leo, the AI tool was purely about equity. It allowed him to dictate his complex historical analysis, use the AI to clean up the structure, organize the paragraphs, and he got an A on that paper.
Reflecting his actual knowledge.
Mrs. Evans correctly saw it as his argument, just enabled by technology, a true reflection of his historical understanding, finally.
Okay, so that's one powerful story. But to grasp the scale of this in higher education, we need to look at the broader data. What do surveys tell us about students with disabilities and their writing challenges?
Well, looking at survey data, the primary conditions students reported that impact their writing are revealing.
Like what?
Neurodiversity, including ADHD, was the largest group, around 34.7% of respondents.
Okay, nearly a third.
Then specific learning difficulties like dyslexia and dyspraxia were next at about 29%. And social or communication impairments like autism were around 21.8%.
So a huge proportion face challenges related to executive function, processing speed, language retrieval.
Precisely. Those are the roots. And these conditions translate directly into a really debilitating list of writing struggles.
What were the top barriers they identified?
Okay, number one was the mechanical challenge of proofreading, just catching spelling and grammar errors at 29%. And, that's linked to the emotional cost of submitting work, isn't perfect.
Definitely. What else?
Then difficulty reading large texts came in at 21%. Think about the amount of reading in university that's a massive barrier.
Huge.
Making intended meaning clear was next at 20%.
Well,
that's the anxiety of, did I actually say what I meant to say?
Yeah, the translation issue again.
Right. And finally, significant struggles with concentration and structuring ideas were both clustered around 16-17%. That points directly to those executive function deficits common in ADHD and autism.
Wow. That list is basically a checklist of anxiety triggers for any student trying to succeed academically.
It really is.
So if a single set of tools can potentially knock out 4 of those top 5 barriers, that's not just an academic benefit, that's a profound psychological one too.
Absolutely. And students are using these tools right across the entire writing process. They're relying heavily on AI chatbots. Interestingly, ChatGPT seems to remain the most popular choice, even at universities that have officially approved alternatives, like Google's Gemini.
Huh. Why do you think that is? Familiarity?
Could be familiarity, maybe perceived power, or just what they started with, but how they're using them is key.
Right. How are they using them to ease that comprehension load you mentioned?
Well, for students struggling with dense academic language or jargon, the AI acts like a sophisticated patient explainer.
Like a personal tutor for terminology.
Kind of. It clarifies complex topics, makes dense articles more accessible. And the ability to summarize long texts or lecture notes is frequently described as a huge game changer.
I bet, especially if you struggle with focus or processing speed.
Exactly. Especially vital for students dealing with anxiety or depression, too, where just the cognitive effort of processing huge blocks of text can feel completely overwhelming and lead to just shutting down.
And the structural support, helping with organization.
Equally vital for students with ADHD who might have real difficulty just initiating a writing task or maintaining focus through the whole process.
Yeah, getting started is often the hardest part.
Right. Using AI to help structure ideas gives them a dependable, less anxiety-provoking starting point. They can dump their raw thoughts in, ask the AI to generate, say, 3 potential essay outlines.
Oh, interesting, like options.
Yeah, outline A, B, or C. Then they can look at those, pick the framework that makes the most sense to them, and start building on it. It helps manage that activation energy needed just to begin writing.
Okay, so the benefits seem really clear, but the students themselves must have concerns too, right? It can't all be smooth sailing.
Oh, definitely. They raise serious, very pragmatic concerns about the technology. Their top fears really mirror that policy tightrope we discussed earlier.
Like what? Accuracy.
Yes. Firstly, the inaccuracy of AI answers. The fear of building an argument on something the AI just made up, a hallucination.
A major risk.
Secondly, the very real risk of accidentally breaching academic integrity rules and being accused of plagiarism. That fear is palpable.
Understandably.
But a third concern they voiced really strongly, which hits right at institutional fairness, was digital inequality.
Ah, the access issue.
Yeah. The unfairness created if the really good, necessary accessibility features are locked behind expensive subscription services. That makes them available only to students who can afford it.
That completely undermines the equity argument, doesn't it? If the tool meant to level the playing field itself becomes a source of inequality.
Exactly. It just creates a new barrier where the old one was supposed to be removed. So, to address these concerns, the students have a pretty clear list of demands for their universities.
What do they want?
They want comprehensive training, not just on AI, but on how to use it effectively and ethically.
So how to maximize the benefits while strictly avoiding cheating or unfair means.
Right. And crucially, they want active involvement in actually setting university AI policy.
They want a seat at the table.
They're emphasizing that their voices, as the ones directly using this tech, benefiting from it, and taking the risks, must be central in creating policies that are truly inclusive and fair.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time talking about how current AI tools are kind of fixing existing problems, poor grammar, messy structure, high anxiety around writing.
Right, addressing the deficits.
But the really exciting edge of this, it seems, is the research moving beyond just correction, moving towards systems that fundamentally adapt to the neurodivergent user's mind itself.
Yes. This is the shift from standard accessibility checklists, just ticking the boxes, towards true adaptive care.
And this future isn't entirely theoretical, is it? It's being foreshadowed by how neurodivergent communities are already using current tools in creative ways.
Exactly. They're leveraging large language models, LLMs, for support that goes beyond academics or professional work, specifically for emotional and social support.
That's fascinating. So not just task completion, but actually helping with emotional well-being.
Yeah. Looking at community discussions among neurodivergent individuals, people with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, social anxiety, LLMs, are being used as this powerful, non-judgmental presence.
How so?
For emotional regulation, people use the AI as a talking buddy or a non-judgmental listener. It helps them process intense feelings or cope with things like rejection-sensitive dysphoria, where even perceived criticism can feel devastating.
Wow. That immediately addresses a huge psychological barrier. If talking to a human carries that risk of judgment or misunderstanding.
The AI offers a predictable, safe space to just process thoughts before maybe sharing them externally.
Okay.
And this extends really powerfully into interpersonal communication, too.
How does that work?
The AI is acting as a kind of neurotypical to neurodivergent translator.
Okay, explain that.
It's not just about making emails sound polite. It's helping users interpret complex social cues they might otherwise miss, or practicing difficult conversations by generating hypothetical scenarios.
Role-playing with the AI.
Sort of. And critically, making sure the right tone and intention are conveyed in their written communications. Users specifically mention the AI helps incorporate those little unspoken rules that NT's neurotypicals seem to just know.
Okay, let me push back on that slightly. If the AI is primarily a neurotypical translator, isn't there a risk it just encourages masking?
That's a great question.
Doesn't it risk erasing the individual's authentic neurodivergent voice, essentially pressuring them to communicate in a way that feels unnatural just to fit in, standardizing thought?
That is a critical tension, and the research absolutely acknowledges it. Users do note that current LLM responses often feel overly neurotypical.
Right.
They find they often have to heavily edit the AI's output to make it sound genuinely like themselves, capturing their unique thought processes or style.
So it's not perfect.
Far from it.
Cool.
And the heavy reliance on text-based interaction still creates barriers for people with reading and writing difficulties. This exact tension highlights why the future has to move beyond simple translation towards a more genuine cognitive partnership.
Which brings us perfectly to this visionary concept of the multimodal future, illustrated by the Alex's paradigm, you called it.
Yes, the Alex paradigm. This is where the technology aims to fully adapt to the user's potentially nonlinear way of thinking.
Okay, paint us a picture. Who is Alex?
So the premise is, Alex is a neurodivergent UX designer. Their thoughts aren't linear. They're naturally a dense web of interconnected ideas, multisensory concepts.
Okay, I can picture that.
When Alex tries to force this rich, interconnected web into a standard linear Word document, the cognitive cost is huge. It's exhausting and loses nuance.
Right.
The vision for the next generation of personalized AI is that Alex could input information multimodally.
Meaning?
Not just talking, but maybe sketching mind maps on a tablet, uploading images that capture the feel or the aesthetic of an idea, providing audio snippets to convey emotional tone.
So the AI needs to be able to understand sketches, images, audio, text, all at once.
Precisely. Advanced multimodal input capabilities. The AI then acts as a true cognitive partner. It takes all these diverse nonlinear inputs and synthesizes them to a coherent linear draft for Alex.
Ow.
It might suggest transitions that bridge Alex's associative leaps, maintaining structural integrity while crucially preserving Alex's unique perspective and voice.
So it doesn't flatten the thinking.
That's the goal. The AI does this without demanding Alex conform to a rigid neurotypical structure first. The tool adapts to their brain, supporting the diverse ways neurodivergent minds process information.
Rather than forcing the brain to adapt to the limitations of the tool.
Exactly. That is the ultimate expression of the paradigm shift, moving away from accessibility defined as just meeting WCAG compliance.
Those static, minimal checklists, often quite reactive.
Totally reactive. Moving from that to a care-driven model that genuinely prioritizes the user's autonomy, their dignity, their cognitive difference.
The compliance model asks, are we meeting the minimum legal bar?
While the care-driven model asks, are we designing systems that truly respect and actively support how this person's mind works?
And how might this care model look in practice? Is there a framework?
The concept proposed is the comfort mode framework.
Comfort mode. Tell us about that.
Okay, imagine comfort mode as a lightweight, always available, user-controlled accessibility layer. It could be a simple toggle you see across all digital interfaces, websites, apps, software.
Persistent across platform.
Ideally, yes. And it reframes accessibility. It's not about remediation, not about fixing something wrong with the user. It's framed as optional comfort, managed entirely by the individual.
Putting the control firmly in the user's hands.
Completely.
So what kinds of customizable options would be inside this comfort mode?
The user gets to define their precise digital experience. They could implement features known to help comprehension or reduce cognitive strain. Things like
dyslexia-friendly fonts.
Exactly. Dyslexia-friendly fonts, like Atkinson Hyperlegible. Dynamically adjusting contrast ratios on the fly. Increasing font size or element spacing. Critically, reducing motion and animation, which can be very distracting or even distressing for some.
That makes sense. Catering not just to permanent disabilities, maybe?
Right, but also temporary or situational impairments, like if you have severe eye strain after a long day or you're trying to read something complex while multitasking. The options benefit many people.
This level of personalization sounds incredibly beneficial. And you mentioned there's a business case here, too. It's not just the right thing to do.
Absolutely, not just moral. The research points to these kinds of customization features correlating directly with higher user engagement and significantly lower bounce rates.
People stick around longer if the interface actually works for them. Makes sense.
Plus, we can't ignore the economic power here. The global disability market is enormous, over 1.8 billion people, estimated to have something like $1.9 trillion in annual disposable income. Designing for dignity, for autonomy, for comfort. It isn't a cost center. It's an economic imperative that actually expands your potential market reach significantly.
So looking back across our conversation, we've really seen this incredible trajectory, haven't we? AI's role in accessibility moving from, basic grammar checks through workplace summarization tools all the way to this vision of a full cognitive copilot.
It's really quite remarkable. This technology is actively creating new, genuinely viable pathways for expression, for learning, for productivity.
Especially for neurodivergent individuals, yeah. It's challenging all those old, rigid ideas about what writing has to look like, what working has to look like.
Absolutely. The crucial conversation moving forward, therefore, really has to be about policy and design philosophy. How do we ensure these incredibly powerful tools are governed by principles of user autonomy, of digital equity, of that personalized care we talked about?
Moving beyond just the static compliance checklists.
Way beyond. We are truly witnessing, I think, a fundamental redesign of digital life, where the ultimate goal is to build systems that adapt to the incredible variability of the human brain.
Rather than continuing to force every human brain to conform to one single rigid system.
Precisely. And by doing that, ensuring that everyone truly has the chance to realize their full potential without that lingering fear of being flagged somehow as not human.